the plastic bag is full, we throw it into the nearest landfill. It's out of sight and out of mind. What is the state of our humankind? And I don't know what to say, 'cause we produce smart every day, and we call it garbage.
Hello and welcome to Going Green for Green. E-waste, the fastest growing segment of our current waste stream. That's our old computers, our cell phones, and our old television sets. And this stuff is piling up at an alarming rate. Last week we looked at collection, who's in charge of collecting it, and who's sort of overseeing the whole program of e-waste. This week we're going to go a step further, and we're going to look at a bunch of private companies that are in the business of processing and harvesting the materials from this e-waste. Here's a few stats. It's estimated that nearly 50 million tons of e-waste is disposed of each year worldwide. Recycling 1 million cell phones could recover 50 pounds of gold, 550 pounds of silver, and 20,000 pounds of copper. So really, it's not just better for the environment, it's just plain good business. Emmy award-winning documentary filmmaker and journalist Peter Klein traveled to Ghana to make his film Digital Dumping Ground. Last week, we spoke with Peter about what happens when this e-waste is not handled properly. Our e-waste is actually being shipped to places like Ghana, disguised as secondhand goods or aid. This has created one of the most polluted places on Earth, and the effects on the environment and human health are just unbelievable. It's staggering to think that this has been happening to our old electronics. Luckily, here in the province of Ontario, we have measures in place to make sure that our e-waste is dealt with properly. I spoke with Hochu from Ontario Electronic Stewardship, the organization currently charged with managing, collecting, and making sure that our e-waste doesn't end up in landfill.
E-waste is the fastest growing waste stream here in Ontario, if not in Canada and around the world. It's so important that we divert this electronic waste from landfill for a couple of reasons. First of all, e-waste contains substances of concern, things like batteries, inks and toners, leaded glass, mercury-containing bulbs and switches. All of these items, if they went into landfill, would have the potential to contaminate our land and our water and our air. And second of all, e-waste contains valuable components, things that should be reclaimed and reused again, including base metals, precious metals, plastic and glass. We really want Ontarians to start to think about electronic waste in the same way that they think about tin cans and newspapers. Most Ontarians wouldn't think of throwing those things into the trash or the garbage or the landfill. OES is really fortunate that we have a robust and ever-growing network of what we call service providers, companies who help us implement this program on the ground. So that includes collectors who receive the material, transporters who pick it up from collection, and recyclers or processors who do the dismantling of the e-waste into its component parts. I think it's important for folks to know that those approved recyclers have to meet a standard called the Electronics Recycling Standard, which is a very high standard for protection of human health and the environment. And they undergo a third-party audit to ensure compliance with the standard before we approve them to handle the material. Under that standard, none of that waste goes to jurisdictions where there's lesser protection for human health and the environment. Time and time again, we hear from Ontarians at our various events held across the province how thrilled they are to know that this program is in place, how easy it is to participate, and how glad they are to rid their homes and offices of their electronic waste.
This week on Sustainably Speaking, we spoke to the residents of Parkdale and the importance they place on recycling properly. Are you a fairly environmentally conscious person?
I mean, I try to be, yeah. I think everybody's trying to be these days. I mean, it's a tough thing to balance sometimes.
I try to be, but it's hard. It is hard, but I try.
And why do you think it's important that more people participate these days?
Well, a lot of the stuff that they're collecting is hazardous waste, so obviously you want to dispose of that responsibly.
I think we need to reduce our garbage as much as we can by recycling here, and I like the way that they recycle everything in a safe way.
We always encourage people to keep their electronics as long as they can, and we do tell them that we're not just a recycling company. We do reuse and refurbish.
So if they want to find out, they go to recycleyourelectronics.ca?
Yeah, exactly. They can just go to the website, recycleyourelectronics.ca, and type in their postal code, and it'll show them all their closest drop-off locations to them, which are usually Staples and Future Shop and people that are working in conjunction with us.
So as you can see, everybody that we speak to today, they all want to do the right thing. And so many of us have in our basement the old batteries, the paint cans, the books, the computers, old electronics, old DVD players. All of that stuff can be disposed of properly here at the Environment Days. So you got to get out, make sure you're in your community, you know when they are, pack up your stuff and bring it down for proper disposal. This is creating green jobs. This is the new economy, and we're really making some difference here. Check us out online at www.goinggreenforgreen.tv or follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
Going Green for Green is brought to you by Ontario Electronics Stewardship and recycleyourelectronics.ca.
So with this massive pile of e-waste building up every year, we wanted to find out who's responsible for actually paying for these recycling programs. Well, we spoke with Peter Hume from the Ontario Association of Municipalities, and he spoke to us about extended producer responsibility, or EPR.
Well, we've started to move away from the throw and forget model of waste management to what we in the business call EPR, or extended producer responsibility. And what that does is it shifts the responsibility away from taxpayers and municipal government for disposing of waste and moves that responsibility onto producers or stewards of that waste, the people who produce the waste. Now they're responsible for developing programs that take that product out of the landfill and that recycle it responsibly. And they're in the best position to do that because they know what's in their products, they know how they've been manufactured, and they can make changes to reduce packaging, to change the way the product is manufactured, to make it easy to recycle. When we're able to talk about good waste management practices that limits landfills, that does the right thing for the environment, that makes communities better places, that's very, very satisfying. That's what I think the future is. That's what I hope the future is.
We spent a lot of time talking about our electronics and how we dispose of them properly, where we take them for proper disposal, and who's in charge of rolling out those programs. Today, we're looking at the other half of that, GEEP, Global Electronic Processing Incorporated, right here in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, with global aspirations, where we're going to see exactly what happens and what's involved in the recycling and processing of your electronics. Chris Garvey, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Mike.
Amazing facility you have here. I have to tell you, I'm kind of overwhelmed at the size and the scope of what I'm looking at. So what exactly do you do here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff here. We do an incredible amount of work. Our staff is broken into two distinct sections of the business. The one is the end of life, which takes used computers, printers, electronics, and so forth, and we break it down mechanically. We recover the commodities, and that's the revenue stream for us. And on the front end of that, we charge fees to do that, such as OES, for example. There is a legislation in place, and those fees pay us to do this. This isn't from the government, it's from the original equipment manufacturers that pay for the program. The other aspect is what we see behind us is what we call AMS, where we have computers and equipment that still have some value to it, that we assess, we will refurb if need be. We'll data wipe to make sure that the data that isn't in that computer doesn't get to the next owner of the equipment, and then we'll resell it on behalf of our clients.
Chris, take me through the process. So we've already seen, the bulked up e-waste in Toronto. How does this process work?
So using the example of the OES, we would receive that. Each box is weighed here so we can confirm it. Each box is classified. After we receive it, we may send it through what's called a sortation to make sure that there isn't a lot of excess plastics or steel that doesn't need to go through the process. And then what we do, we take the product and we put it to our first step, which is called an ERP1. An ERP1 is a chain shredder, and it's this massive big pit with chains, ship chains, and it's turning and violently trying to liberate the commodities and plastics on the first step. So on the bottom of that machine, we have a magnet. And the magnet pulls out the easy part, the ferrous metal or the steel. And then we go through a separation technique through belts and so forth. And then we again have people employed and they do a visual check and try to separate what they can. Once they're through that, it goes into a imaging section, it goes through a ERP2 section, and all it's about is making things smaller, rounder, and separating them.
What sort of quantities of valuable metals could you pull out of a ton of computers?
We talk about above ground mining because this is essentially what we're doing here. For example, with copper, in order to mine a ton of copper with e-waste, you need 14 tons of e-waste. But in order to do it through a mine and through a smelting process, let alone the carbon footprint, it's something like 80,000 tons. So this is good for the environment. You don't have the refining aspect to it, and you're doing the right thing.
So you mentioned earlier to me, Chris, that you have a proprietary fuel called nanofuels.
Essentially, or simply put, what we do here is we take commingled plastics such as this that come out of our e-waste processing, we add used motor oil, and we add a catalyst, and we create a high-grade diesel. And our intention with that is to fuel our equipment. As well, we have generators out back here, we have reservoirs, take the plant off the grid, and we're hopeful to, in time, sell energy back to the municipality.
Is everything recycled and reused or sold as a commodity?
Just about everything is. You know, that's the reason we do this. We want to separate and gain the value of the commodities out of everything.
Chris, thanks so much. I really appreciated the tour. I learned a lot here today. And you know, Barrie, Ontario, Canada, this is a global leader, GEEP, in electronic stewardship and electronics recycling. You have to do your part. You have to make sure that you take advantage of those little depots out in your neighborhood and your communities where you can drop off your e-waste for proper disposal. And for those of you that didn't think here in the province of Ontario we were doing it properly, take a look at GEEP. This is amazing stuff. Check us out online at www.goinggreenforgreen.tv or follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
Going Green for Green is brought to you by Ontario Electronic Stewardship and recycleyourelectronics.ca.
Reduce, reuse, and recycle, the 3 R's. We know we're starting to recycle more and more, and some of us, most of us, are certainly trying to reduce. What about reuse? Well, here's a company in Toronto called Computation. Their whole business is based on reuse and refurbishing old computer equipment. Let's take a look inside and see what they got. Dennis Maslow, Michael Lavelle.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, Dennis, tell us a little bit about Computation and what it is that you guys do.
Definitely motivated by the opportunity to do something for the environment. And we're able to reuse about 20 to 25% of what we receive in total. And we've taken about £750,000 pounds a year out of our 3 locations. If we cannot reuse it, we will cannibalize it for parts and use those parts. And the balance, hard drives will either get wiped and reused or destroyed by getting punctured by a drill bit or shredded because privacy is important to a lot of our corporate and residential clients. And then we'll go about recovering the metals and other materials.
So what kind of people do you get coming in here to actually buy the refurbished computers?
Anything from hobbyists, do-it-yourselfers, parents who want a 3rd computer for the house or to send a kid off to school, or people starting businesses or kids themselves.
When you cannot sell it, what happens to it?
We handle all of our materials in OECD countries. We've partnered with OES here in Ontario, and that ensures that upwards of 96% of what we receive is going to be diverted from landfill through reuse and recycling, and so it's a venerable solution. Definitely, there are ever increasing quantities of e-waste. The biggest challenge is getting the word out there, but when people find out about it, they're quite happy to load up their trunk and empty out their garage or basement, what have you. Or if it's a business, they'll call us and we'll drop by with a cube truck and a couple of strong fellas and load up a few skids.
Bring your old computers in here, printers, servers, video cameras, whatever you may have lying around, and just maybe Dennis can put it back into somebody's hands that really needs it or wants it. Thanks again, Dennis. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, there are some perks to hosting Going Green for Green. It certainly isn't in my balance in my bank account, but today, what an awesome day for me. Big, huge Jack Johnson fan. Jack agreed to have an interview with Going Green for Green, supports the show, supports what we're trying to do here at the community level and in the media to try and promote some change and make a difference. Ali Casella from Lake Ontario Waterkeeper, here to celebrate Jack Johnson, our green hero. Tell us about his support for the Waterkeepers, what it does, what you guys got going on, etc.
Well, Jack was great this year. He invited us back to do the All at Once, which is this not-for-profit area here at his concerts, and it's been really great because they guarantee you a donation. So that's really helped us to work towards a swimmable, drinkable, fishable future for Lake Ontario. What we're doing here today is we're teaching people about our Swim, Drink, Fish music membership. So right now we've started this online music club membership. You go online, you pay a donation of $10, and you get access to all these great tracks from musicians who have helped us out. So people like Gord Downey from the Tragically Hip, Sarah Harmer, the up-and-coming Great Lake Swimmers, Bruce Coburn. We've got some great people working for the same cause that Jack's doing right here all over North America and all over his tour. So it's a really great opportunity for us.
So I'm assuming that Jack does the same thing for you guys. So he'll match any donation that you get today.
They do a matching donation up to $2,500, which is fantastic, and they're making it so easy for us to get the money, which is great to have that kind of support from such a huge figure like Jack Johnson.
So I'm a Swim, Drink, and Fish music member.
Yes.
How does one go ahead and do it? Why don't you just tell them?
www.swimdrinkfishmusic.com. It's $10 a year. It's just $10.
It's been a fantastic afternoon. It's the second time that Jack's had us out here, and we're absolutely delighted to get the exposure, a different clientele than we're usually seeing, people who are interested and they're curious about the park, and hopefully we got a lot more visitors now.
You're using your status for good. I just want to find out how that evolved. I mean, you give a lot of credit to your wife. Can you just elaborate on sort of your commitments and why you do these things?
Yeah, I do joke a lot that it's all my wife, you know, but it's there's some truth in the jest, because it's I think a partnership really helps. It's one of those things where we have these conversations, wouldn't it be great to do this or that? And the next day my wife has a little list, you know, a checklist of all the things, and it really helps because she's somebody who really follows through on things, and it's you need a whole team, so it's not just us but also everybody who's involved. We've been lucky because we've been touring with the same group of people for a long time, and they truly believe in all the stuff that we're trying to do. So it's nice because you don't have anybody who's trying to distract us from any of the ideas. It's something we've learned a lot about, just trying to run our own thing. You know, it's make it sustainable by giving back to the community as we come through. We've been through these towns over and over, and it feels really important to make sure we're giving back to every town that we visit. You know, make sure that when we leave that place, it's in better shape than when we arrived, instead of just making an impact on it.
You keep using me just like your stepping stone. You keep using me like your stepping stone. But don't get caught using me for your stepping stone.
Hey, my name is Jack Johnson, and you're watching Going Green for Green. Aloha.
Check us out online at www.goinggreenforgreen.tv or follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
Going Green for Green is brought to you by Ontario Electronic Stewardship and recycleyourelectronics.ca.
Hey, what a day today. Right here in downtown Toronto, just behind the CN Tower, lives a gem of a business, Steam Whistle Brewing. Steam Whistle has made huge efforts to brew the most sustainable beer in Canada. We're going to talk to Sybil, a representative from Steam Whistle, and see what she has to say about those efforts, what exactly they've done, and how they're brewing the most sustainable beer in Canada. Tell me about Steam Whistle and why you guys have chosen the route of sustainability to brew your beer.
I guess it began right from day one. We wanted to do the right thing. And the bottle itself is an important part of our sustainability initiatives. Rather than using the industry brown bottle, which can be refilled 12 to 15 times, we went back into time and chose a beer bottle from the 1950s, and it is made with 30% more glass, so it can be refilled 40, 45, 50 times. When we built the facility in 2000, we enlisted with N-Waves deep lake water cooling. So the nice cool air that you're feeling here in our store is not conventional Freon air conditioning. It uses the chill from the water deep in Lake Ontario and circulates through coils, and then that chill provides the climate control of the building. Since 2007, we've been powered 100% by Bullfrog Power. So that's low impact hydro or wind generated electricity. In 2008, we built a new brew house because we were growing and it was time to upgrade. Previously, the steam heat, which came off the top of the brew kettles, really just evaporated in the air. But in the new brew house, we capture that steam, we condense it, we capture the heat energy, and now make all the hot water that we need here on site for every other operation. So we're our own hot water for washing the bottles and floors and tanks and so on. Here in the bottling hall, this is where we do all of our packaging. And what we've got here are empties that have come back from the beer store. The beer store is known as the best deposit return system in the world. We get about 85% of our bottles back and we wash them here. It takes about 15 minutes at 120 degrees Celsius, and they're cleaned up to be refilled again. Come on down here, Michael. I've got a little treat for you.
They got their own steam whistle.
We work really hard at waste diversion here, and right now we're at about 94% diversion of waste from our operations.
Wait a minute, 94%.
That's right, so only 6% actually goes out to the garbage, and the rest is being either recycled or reused. So here we're recycling plastic, so shrink wrap and so on from our operations. These cans, these are actually new cans, but you can see the odd time some of them get damaged. So at the end of the day when we're canning, a bunch of the cans will go out for recycling. We also recycle broken glass, bottle caps, kegs that are damaged go for scrap metal. Our cardboard, even the grain from the brew house goes out to farmers for feed. 3 days a week we have Canada Clean Fuels come in here with a tanker truck, and he fills up all the trucks and some of the vans that run on diesel with a B20 grade biodiesel that's made of soya and recycled restaurant grease. The reason we fill it up here in the parking lot is there aren't a lot of gas stations that actually carry biodiesel, and it saves time for our drivers. One of our guys out in BC had an idea that why don't we convert one of our vintage vehicles to an electric car. Not only is this an electric car, but it runs again on bullfrog power. So you have a sustainable beer that's delivered emissions-free.
Over the last number of weeks, I've been inside the recycling facilities for electronics, for green bin food waste. I've talked about the Green Energy Act. I've talked about the FIT program, all kinds of serious issues. But today, it's all about a different kind of green. It's all about steam whistle green, and it's about the beer. Where at Steam Whistle Breweries, they're taking giant steps and leaving smaller footprints. Cheers. Sybil, thanks so much. Oh yeah, we'll see you next time.
Another plastic bag is full. We throw it into the nearest landfill. It's out of sight and out of mind. What is the state of our humankind? And I don't know what to say, 'cause we produce more every day, and we call it crime.